The Nationals did pretty well at the New South Wales election. Looks like they've held all of their seats in New South Wales, all but one. So let's get to the Nationals Party leader, David Littleproud, at a national level, of course. You must be pretty happy with that. Why do you think the Nationals were able to hold on?
Because we just talk common sense, and I think we've been able to cut through at a local level with the local issues, but delivery of the infrastructure that the Nationals, as part of the coalition government, were able to deliver. Now, we haven't given up on Monaro just yet, but we've got to be honest, it's going to be a tough fight. The early indications are that we're in behind, but the first of the pre-polls came through on Saturday night in a booth that we normally lose that we did win. So that's giving us some hope, a glimmer of hope that we may come back, along with postals that normally go very strong the Nationals way. So, but overall, I think we're very proud of the fact that Nationals, we've been able to stick to our values and our principles as Nationals, looking after regional Australia and regional New South Wales. And we had a record of delivery. So while the tide went out, it went out very heavily, and we've got to be honest about that. And we've got to learn the lessons. There's still lessons for the Nationals to learn in this as well.
What are they?
But we've got to listen. Well, I think, one, it came down to a tired government in the eyes of the electorate, and the vision that we were proposing moving forward as a coalition, I don't think cut through. And that's where, and I think Dom Perrottet eloquently said this on the night, is that this was a respectful campaign, one on issues and one on ideas. And this is where I think that Labor was able to cut through for a fresh start. I think privatisation didn't help. And we've got to understand that. Australians and New South Welshmen obviously love their assets and want them preserved by the governments owning them. So you've got to learn those lessons, but obviously now we've got to reflect and move forward, and hopefully the Liberal Party can do their bit, and we'll obviously work and continue to work as Nationals to focus in on regional New South Wales and, from my perspective, regional Australia. Yeah,
for sure. It seems that was a good tactic, though. I mean, the central campaign, Dominic Perrottet, wasn't talking a lot about the regions, but that's the beauty of the coalition partnership, isn't it? That you divide and conquer. The Nationals, Paul Toole, was able to concentrate on the bush in those seats, and it seems to have worked, even though, you know, they weren't talking about the bush in kind of a central campaign sense. So, look, is there any evidence in these results, do you think, taking into account the result of One Nation as well, that shows that the Liberal Party, Dominic Perrottet, was too left in its policies?
Oh, no, and I think that the New South Wales Nationals backed much of the policies that Dom Perrottet and the Liberals put forward. And this is about making sure that we acknowledge the challenges that we're facing with respect to climate, but making sure we have practical solutions that respect traditional industries that are invariably in regional areas. And that's the responsible thing to do. No one's sitting here denying what's happening. We're just saying, and we're saying in metropolitan
I don't know
Australians,
about no one.
understand.
I don't know about no one.
Well,
there's some people actually saying that
the majority,
you know, the
majority
Liberal
of the National Party.
And I appreciate that you're not in the Liberal Party, but I want to ask you this. There's some saying that the Liberal Party, you know, every time there's a loss of an election, whether it be federal or state, and the Liberal Party doesn't do well, there's always this kind of complaint. There's this point made, before results even come in, by the way, that Liberals have gone too far to the left, or they've forgotten their Conservative base. Is there any evidence of that? What do you think about that claim?
Well, look, I'd be very careful to comment on that, because obviously we don't run in metropolitan seats, so I don't actually go over the data worrying about seats in Sydney. What I worry about are the regional seats where we represent our constituents and where we're trying to win seats. That's the purity of purpose that the National Party has, is that we don't compromise on our values or beliefs because we have city members. We simply focus in on regional Australians, the 30% of Australians that live outside capital cities. So I think there'll be a lot of analysis done over the coming couple of days about what went wrong in Sydney, but I think it's important you do that with clear air and a clear head.
Yeah, fair enough. Let me talk to you quickly about The Voice. You would have just heard Anne Toomey on this program a couple of moments ago. You didn't support The Voice before we saw the wording. Now we have the wording. We'll go through a committee stage. Is there anything that would change your mind on this?
No, there isn't, and we are now seeing lawyers at 100 paces. And in fact, Greg Haven and others are now deviating from it. And I think you even saw the Attorney General admit yesterday in a news article that there will be High Court challenges, and this is what we feared and knew. And what would help, but is that the government would be honest with the Australian people, bring them into their trust, and release the Solicitor General's advice. That may help the case to be able to articulate all the legal conundrums that seem to be lying ahead of us. But on principle, there are clear principles why we won't support
but
this.
But even if you saw the Solicitor General's advice and it didn't say that, you wouldn't support it anyway?
No, because we're predicated on our lived experience of what happens out in regional remote areas. So we're just asking city people to understand that's where the most disadvantage is. And we've been down a representative model before. And that's why we were able to make a decision very early, because that is the model that the Prime Minister and the working group put forward. We've had that before under ATSIC. It didn't close the gap. And so what we're saying is we don't need another layer of bureaucracy. There's over 1,000 Indigenous groups giving advice already to government, and adding another one won't work. So we don't need bigger bureaucracy, we need a better bureaucracy. And that can be done without actually having to enshrine that in the Constitution. Okay. And we live by other simple tenet as well, Laura, that no matter your colour, your creed, your religion, in this country, everyone's equal and everyone gets the same voice to Parliament, and that's through the 227 members that are elected in the Senate or the House of Representatives. I take that seriously, and proudly our nation's elected 11 Indigenous Australians, and they don't represent Indigenous Australians, they represent all Australians. That's our responsibility, that's the beauty of our system, and those are guiding principles that I think we shouldn't change for any reason whatsoever.
David Littleproud, good to see you. Thanks so much.